most of them agreed to be armed, Mr. President, but some of them also disagree.
Disagree.
So,
Okay.
yeah, they
So,
prefer to be armed with fire hoses
yes,
rather
yes.
than firearms.
Yeah, and the proper protective gear, I suppose, di ba?
Yes, Mr. President, proper
Okay.
protective equipment.
Yeah. Okay, so let me move on, Mr. President. So as I mentioned earlier, at the appropriate time, we'll probably have amendments on the 3-year period.
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay. And then just a clarification, Mr. President, on page 6, line 20, there is a provision here on multi-year contract and other contractual arrangements.
Yes, Mr. President.
Okay. Incidentally, my staff showed me that the AFP modernization is for 15 years.
15 years.
15 years, yes. Okay. Now, here, could you guide me on the intent of this particular section? No? Because on line 21, it says the BFP pursuant to the BFP modernization program projects and appropriations approved by Congress may subject to the approval of the President provisions of existing laws and regulations, including those of the Commission on Audit, and under such terms and conditions most favorable to the government. So hindi ko naintindihan karamihan nun, ano? But I understand the intent into a multi-year contract lease and lease purchase agreement. Okay? Yes. No?
This the intention of this, Mr. President, is that there are agreements that might exceed or might exist beyond 3 years, beyond the modernization program, Mr. President. So ginawa na lang itong safety net, Mr. President, para hindi magka-problema yung Bureau of Fire.
Okay.
Right
So
after the
here, may nakalagay
three-year
multi-year allowing them to enter into a multi-year contract. Di ba? Is that the
Yes.
intention of this measure? Of this section?
Yes, Mr. President, multi-year contracts, lease and lease purchase agreement.
Na multi-year. Di ba?
Multi-year.
Okay. And then on paragraph B, Congress automatically will have to appropriate. We are mandating here that Congress will have to immediately appropriate, di ba?
Yes, Mr. President.
Now, is this found in, let's say, the BFP modernization? I'm sorry, AFP modernization, no?
I am not sure, Mr. President. But
Yes.
kaya Mr. President, na yung kanilang modernization ng AFP was expands through 15 years because
Yes.
of the amount that is
Yes.
considered, Mr. President.
Lagi kulang yung pera.
75 billion, Mr. President.
Yes, understood. Okay. Now, here naman, it also talks here of the consistency with the PNP modernization program.
Andito.
Provided that the BFP and the DBM shall issue the implementing guidelines to ensure consistency with the PNP modernization program.
At typo error, Mr. President. It's a BFP modernization program, not PNP.
Okay.
Typo
Okay.
error, Mr. President.
Okay. So I may have a problem also with, yes, thank you for that. I may have a problem also on multi-year contracts issued by possibly the executive that Congress does not know of to begin with. Okay, it's just like, for example, by the Constitution, the President is authorized to borrow money, but he cannot spend it without an appropriation. Okay, but what happens is that we had nothing to do with the borrowing of money. Then they put it in the unprogrammed funds immediately, and then automatically every year that Congress has to appropriate. So I foresee that in the future, there will be a problem with some of these, not all, but some of these multi-year contracts, Mr. President. In fact, an executive department can finish the resources of the next administration by having multi-year contracts, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. President. But going back to your question, Mr. President, I would like
Yes.
to address your question regarding the AFP modernization.
Yes.
Kung, the same provision holds true with the AFP
Yes.
modernization, itong multi-year contracting, Mr. President. The answer is yes, Mr. President.
It
And
is
in
found in the law?
Yes, R8 10349, the AFP Modernization Act.
Yes.
Mayroon ding provision na the same
Multi-year.
dito. Multi-year, Mr.
No,
President.
I understand that in certain instances you need to have this multi-year. My problem is when you have too many of them, it can be abused.
Yes, I agree, Mr. President.
And that hindi na alam ng Kongreso what they are actually really funding. It can be abused. And so at the appropriate time, we will probably make amendments to at least 2 or 3 sections which we discussed earlier. No?
Yes, Mr.
So as
President.
not to overpromise. But like I said, I'm in favor of this measure. I'm in favor of the vision of the sponsor of providing better equipment to modernize the Bureau of Fire and Protection. So I'm one with you. And I think the bill, by and large, is well written. So let me congratulate the sponsor. And at this juncture, Mr. President, I have no further questions. Thank you very much, Mr. President, for the opportunity. Thank you to our very good sponsor.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. We no longer have anyone listed on the interpellators to interpolate the measure, Mr. President. I move with the permission of the body to close the period of interpellation. Mr. President, I so move.
Any objection? Hearing none, period of interpellation is closed.
I'd like to ask Mr. President if the sponsor is ready for his committee amendments before we tackle the individual amendments.
Not yet, Mr. President.
So, not ready today. Okay, Mr. President.
Ready today.
With that, we move to suspend consideration of the measure.
Any objection? Chair hears none, consideration of the measure suspended.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm in favor of this measure. I'm in favor of the vision of the sponsor of providing better equipment to modernize the Bureau of Fire and Protection. So I'm one with you. And I think the bill, by and large, is well written. So let me congratulate the sponsor. And at this juncture, Mr. President, I have no further questions. Thank you very much, Mr. President.